I will be pretty quick. Don't worry, I saw you do that. Yeah. No, I'll be pretty quick because I think most of the stuff everybody probably knows quite a lot of this. It seems like some very good community managers in the room. So, but I was asked to talk about creating content calendars, which I seem to spend my life doing at the moment. There's only so many ways you can say the same thing. And it's amazing how many ways you can say the same thing. Right, there's a nice picture of me. I like that one, it's quite an old one. So I founded Strawberry Social just under 2 years ago. I've been doing all sorts of stuff. I've worked as a community manager, new business person. I worked all the way up to a director of client services and operations. So I've done all bits of the job really, which has equipped me quite well actually to do what I'm doing. A lot of content, I love doing content. I actually really enjoy it, even if it is for a bank or something like that. I do enjoy it. I just like finding different ways to say things. It's quite interesting, and then you've got the limit of characters, and it's quite a challenge. And I quite enjoy it. So I do all sorts of stuff for clients. Like I said, a big background in global. So I've worked on lots of mobile phone companies from my last company. Running 20 Facebook pages in different regions, different countries, and teams, remote teams. So I've done some massive stuff. But what that's done is left behind the smaller things, and that's where I found the niche. So we work a lot with digital and advertising agencies and their brands. So they will have brands that are hotel chains, mobile phone companies again, all those kind of things, and we work usually white label as part of them. And I've got about 3 or 4 freelancers on board now, one of which is with me almost full time. I nicked from moderation, good old friend of mine. And we used to work a lot on charities together, so her and I ran the charity moderation team at eModeration. And we've taken one of the charities with us, which is Friends in Need, which is how I know you over there, Claire over there, because Friends in Need was owned by Depression Alliance, was brought out of her mind a few months ago. Brought out, I'm not sure if that's the right term.
I think is what
but yeah, merged, took them over. So they've already got Ellie Friends, which is a very different setup to Friends in Need. Friends in Need is actually very much for over 18. You take responsibility for yourself and you can meet up in real life. So we worked with them for 5 years actually at the eModeration. So we've been there from the beginning. So we got a little niche with the charity forums. We like the communities. Very interesting. Strawberry Social, blah blah blah, do all sorts of stuff. Basically I do whatever comes my way, and I've put on some nice new people who do all sorts of other stuff that I can't do, so far it's working. I'm quite chuffed actually. Right, you all know why we need a social content calendar, but I'm going to go through it anyway. Right, so the benefits. The benefits are, so spot and deal with mistakes in advance. Something very simple, typos real easy, extra gaps between words, all those kind of things. Allows you to plan ahead, ensures you don't miss key content opportunities. So we're talking about, you get your content planner in for the year, get in the key events for that brand or for your organisation, and then break it down to month by month. And it means that you're there. It's like Black Friday, you plan for that. You make sure you're there and it's not a big rush. Team environments, point of reference, that's really key. I bang on quite a lot about processes and organisation and central organisation. Have everybody on the same page, make everything templated, make it all, so it can be moved around, but everybody knows where stuff is, when it needs to be done, who does it, who they go to for help. Too many brands have someone who heads up their social media who then goes off sick and has got passwords in their head and everything else in their head, or they leave and they actually own the Twitter account. So, very important. Repetition. It's easy to do the same content over and over again, so this helps spot it. Obviously planning ahead again. If you've got a big marketing drive, you can actually make sure you've got more hours and more personnel in place. Spread of content themes, and also the client sign-off. So I don't know, anybody who works with brands knows how long it can take sometimes to get sign-off from a client. Some clients are fine and say, yeah, write what you want really, as long as it's on brand. Others will say, we only have 2 sets of eyes that need to look at it. So if you're trying to actually be up to date, that's quite difficult. So that's where the weekly calendar comes in quite well. Okay, so then I've got lots of little ones that I put together. So the one at the back is actually a Google Doc. I love G-Docs. And when you work with smaller companies, that's brilliant because you can all edit this as a live document and you can note when somebody's signed it off and all sorts. It's great. Working with banks, financial institutions, legal firms, they can't use these things at work. They're not allowed. They can't access Facebook. They can't access whatever. So you go back to the old Excel documents, which everybody knows a lot about, and you have endless version numbers going backwards and forwards by email. But there's so many ways to do it. At the end of the presentation, there's also some templates, links to free templates. Lots of people do them. HubSpot, Hootsuite, there's some nice stuff, and you can mix them up and make them fit depending on what you're working on. Right, key elements. I think you know most of this too. The objectives. So plan. What do you want to do? Do you want them to click through? You know, do you want them to sign up? What do you want people to do? Who are the audience? So this is where you need your playbook or your brand guidelines. Who's your buyer personas? Who are your audience personas? There might be quite a few different audiences that you will tackle in different ways in different places. The theme, so you can have your themes. You break those down into subtopics. So you've got content that rolls. The format. So some people might want to see an image. Some people might want to see a video. Some people might want to do a poll or a quiz. Which social platforms, not always that straightforward, don't have to do them all. And timing, once again, as Kath was saying here, you know, you can actually do quite a lot of research into the timing. So this is quite a nice little case study. This is KLM, the airline. Back with, now where was it? 2010 I think it was, when the volcano did its thing in Iceland, the one you can't pronounce, I can't pronounce. And what happened is all the flights just stopped for 6 days. KLM, obviously, they said one of the airlines, their call centre got completely blocked, so they couldn't help people. So what they did, they were quite innovative, and they talked internally, got a few volunteers in place, and they started managing their social media channels. Suddenly, they were answering people ad hoc, and it worked so well. They did so well with it. They actually they invested in it ongoing, to become the go-to airline. So they didn't even put KLM in their hashtag, because what they've done now is they've set up a system whereby you can actually contact them with questions about any airline or any destination, and they will find you the answer. Mm-hmm. So this has worked incredibly well for them. So these are the example objectives they had. Awareness, absolutely, got them up there. Exposure to a new audience, which is great, because there's other people who maybe flew BA, might actually now fly KLM. Increase the followers, we all know about the vanity metric, I won't go into that too much. Quality over quantity. Reducing the call centre volume, they did that. Generate leads, yes, and they created credibility, so you can actually have a little read about it. It was pretty good, pretty interesting, quite bold. Defining the audience, you know about this probably. Personas, once again, who are they, where do they live? Language is important, time zones very important. You don't want to post during UK office hours if your audience is in West Coast America. Lifestyle, once again, where are people at different times of the day? And how savvy are they tech-wise? You might think, great, I've got this amazing Instagram campaign, but do they use it or do they know how to use it? They heard of it. Themes, 3 easy steps. So as an example, let's say you worked with a brand that was a bank, maybe, it was their recruitment arm, and they wanted to get in new talent, so graduates. So you choose a time frame. So when would you run the campaign to get that in? Probably around summertime, around graduation time. And then you just brainstorm the subtopics. You know, the lists, best interview tips, top 10 CV tips. You can come up with all sorts of things just under the one campaign. Content types, there's tons, and there's some really interesting stuff coming up at the moment. So obviously Facebook Live, you might see in the indents happening quite a lot during I'm a Celebrity. Getting out of here, my guilty pleasure. So that's they're really pushing that, and they've rolled it out to Instagram as well. So there's Instagram Live as well. So it's worth doing a bit of research around that as to what the possibilities might be. Because I haven't actually got too far into it yet. I'd like to pick out the guest posts from the third parties as well, aid discovery. That's when you team up with someone else. It's always great, So we worked with a fashion brand, and recently did a competition with a camera company. The two go together very well, double the followers. So that's quite a nice way to do things. There's also something called Stories on Instagram, which shows the last 5 posts from your favourite brands. It's worth looking into that a little more, because you can actually move things around so that comes up in their feed. I'm actually kind of a little bit of a newbie with Instagram when it comes to working with it. So I'm learning all the exciting stuff.
I just wanted to mention, for example, about the guest posting. There is one Instagram account I follow. It's actually Polish because it's connected to a website promoting design, more or less, and it's like the design artists. And it's like, and they have this Instagram account which is like every single week. It's been managed by a different person. Artists, designers, photographers. They just show something like, they just show their artworks, they show their daily work and things like that. And it's interesting because every week is like it's different.
Yeah.
And it's surprising as well.
Yeah.
So for example, but it's the whole account like this. So it's not like, okay, so they started it like this from scratch and it's working.
That's a really good idea. Yeah. I mean, you've got your guidelines in place, obviously, up front, but
of course
it keeps things mixed up.
But you can still, and it's not just like them choosing. It's like you can always actually message them and say, "I can do it." If you wanted me, it's
really?
like because they just want to promote artists and photographers, designers, etc.
There you go. That's quite a nice idea,
Yeah.
isn't it? Post things out. Right, our nice content examples we know all about. Listicles, obviously, is the big long stuff that you cut down into top 10 hair straighteners, or whatever, off the top of my head. Newsjacking, I like newsjacking. This is actually a pizza company that, the show that I think it was Andrew Lloyd Webber, and they were looking for a new Maria, The Sound of Music, and this pizza company tagged the show and said, I can't believe pizza wasn't one of her favourite things. And I quite like that. I thought it was fun. And I did shove in there recently the John Lewis ad. Have you seen her after the election? That's got, I'm sure they're not too upset about that. John Lewis, bless him. But I love that. I thought it was brilliant. Throwback, we worked with, my last company worked with Heathrow as a client. And I was quite surprised actually the amount of their audience who were aircraft geeks. Loved them. So they had a whole theme on Facebook whereby they actually just had old pictures and sped up building pictures of aircraft and things like that. So that works very well. And they asked me anything, the webcasts, the simulcasts, the live web chats, they're all pretty good. This is a controversial one. Some people hate it. I think the jury's out. It depends on who your audience are. If you've got a load of Heat magazine readers, they probably quite enjoy a bit of clickbait. I don't know, but this guy seems to think that one day there'll be books praising great clickbait. So who knows? But it's basically fit your audience. We know all about the different channels. What's quite interesting is not always that obvious. So you'd think that I was looking at Royal Mail recently, and you'd think they're recruiting for Christmas staff. You think they'd go all out on LinkedIn. They haven't. They've set up a Facebook group, careers group, and it's taken off. It's brilliant and really done well. There's a good atmosphere about it. It's very good natured. They're very responsive. So you don't know. You have to try these things out. Timing. We all know about the timing. Once again, like I said earlier, so let's say you're working with Mind. You're going to get busier around Mental Health Week. Reach audience when they're online, so if you've got mums as your audience, don't post when they're picking the kids up. Analytics, obviously, very useful, really useful. If you've got someone who's good with the old analytics, that will really help, and I'll show you. Well, it's quite easy. And then flexibility, so actually review, just keep reviewing. Right, so as most of you will have seen, Facebook and Twitter and many of the other social platforms do some nice insights So with this brand we looked at, you find that if you go backwards, rather than actually trying to plot things in, if you actually look at how well the content did, and go back and actually look at okay, so that content did really well when it was at that time. Okay, well that looks like that's a really good time to do the same kind of content for that day. So experiment around, but you can pull off all that information and work backwards with that. What does good look like? So there's the templates. So I've used all sorts of stuff. So I've pulled stuff from other people, from different sites. So Hootsuite are excellent for free stuff, really good stuff. E-consultancy, obviously, HubSpot, very good as well. So they've all got some lovely tools and templates that are worth actually having a little look at. Obviously, some of the tools you can also do the content calendar actually in the tool. I have to say, I've always found that quite clunky still. I still haven't found anything that beats just using an Excel or a Google Doc. But that might just be me. Maybe it's my age, I don't know. Right, and that was just a breakdown of a couple of the content calendars. So this would be a grid system. So you do a weekly calendar for this one. So this is a Facebook grid. You'd have a LinkedIn grid underneath, Twitter grid under there. You go through the source, the type, so is it text, visual, the objective, are you raising awareness? The theme, is it diversity, is it training, is it promoted? And then you go through, you've got your copy in there, you put your links in. Images, obviously, that's a thumbnail, so what you'll do is to the client you provide an extra a separate folder with the full or resized images. Nice little tip, anybody likes their Excel? If you put the equals, LEN, and then the content cell in the brackets, it will work out for you how many characters are in that cell. Just so it's good. See, I knew that would be the tip. I can't read it.
You just need to zoom it in.
From letter 10 and LEN.
Yeah.
And then it's just so brackets, open and close brackets around the actual cell. It's just easy because obviously LinkedIn you've got a 600 character. And then you go Twitter, which is ever movable.
That's like magic. You should charge for that.
I should. See that whole. Forget the rest of the presentation. Yeah. That's where the money is. I've got a few more of those kind of things. Actually, I love my Excel. Okay, so we got that one. Yes, and then it's not so exciting. So this is the other one that I do. This is actually where a Google Doc. So in the content status, which is quite nice, is that the client can go in there and they can put whether they've reviewed something, whether they like it. So it's more real time. It's quite nice. Also, what I quite like here is for smaller companies, especially, you can put all sorts of information in there. So you can have a hashtag tab, which talks about the main industry hashtags or relevant ones you want to use. News sources. So let's say you get on the Monday morning and you think you need to, what's going on, share a few things, what's industry specific. So you put in all the links in there. Event overview for the year. The crisis and what ifs. So what if this happens? Who do you ask? What do you post? And there's also quite nice little reminders, because I trained this young chap who was taking over from the family firm into how to run his social media. And this little top 10 before you post thing worked really well. Have you checked for spelling? Have you checked that, all sorts of things. So he rather liked that. A quick little side point, which actually Claire might recognise this, I don't know. Response matrix always works quite well, obviously works in tandem with your content calendar. And this is one from Friends in Need, which we do for mine. So obviously you've got all the different responses down the bottom. So there's a general tab, one for suicidal, where to send people, self-harm, greetings, safeguarding children, useful links. You can send them through. Most of those go to various different Mind resources, which they've got a lot of, very good. But this, you want this in place. You want your team to feel safe, that they know what to do if something happens. So this needs to be worked up from the beginning and continually added to. Just a little sideline, really. And really, see, I told you I was 3. There's a cat, you see. Yeah. You see, when you said you had a dog, that's got a cat.
Okay, I've got a cat on my website. I've got a cat on my website.
We just emailed, that's why.
So I liked him. I thought he was cute. So yeah, know your objectives, plan ahead, If you can, get the client to go along with you when you're planning ahead. Be thoroughly organised. I bang up about that. You have to be so organised. Fit the method to the client, whether they've got limitations, whether there's particular ways they want to work. Fully equip your team and theirs. You'd be surprised at the amount of people who have got marketing or social media departments or things that just don't really know what they're doing, and you have to explain things to them. So, you know, welcome them, help them. Never know, you might get some more money out of it. Manage the roles and the processes clearly, who does what and when, who covers when someone's not around, you know, who's around out of hours, if there's an emergency, if there's a PR problem, you need someone who's going to deal with it. So make sure you know. Review regularly, we talked about this, agile, so go through, benchmark, measure what's working, what isn't, change. Every quarter is quite good actually for that. Assess risk and plan for a crisis. Make sure you've got those things in place so people aren't frightened to, you know, to actually just engage. And yeah, have fun, little smiley face. See, I told you I was through. Thank you very much.
Thank
Kat,
you.
Then you've got any questions, so who knows.
I'm just interested because because you said that you are like old school and you prefer to use Excel, for example, or Google Docs. What about other people that you work with? Do they do they prefer the templates and trying the templates out, or they just stick to the Excel thingy?
They usually do
well?
usually most of the time, the brands, unless you're working with a really clued up brand, most of the time they'll be led by you, and they'll use the least technical way of doing things and what they're familiar with. So most of them aren't scared of an Excel document, they know what it is. Sometimes working with some of the digital agencies, they do a lot of trying out some of the new tools, or let's try out Buffer because they've got now a new content planning bit that we can all share. So they'll be trying the new stuff, whether it comes to also things like, you know, I use Basecamp version 2 because I like it. I don't like the new version. Slack, whatever, but I don't really like that either. But then other people at the agencies I work for love it. They're in their 20s. It's great, it's very exciting. But I like things to be quite functional. I tend to find people, most clients will err on the safe.
Yeah.
It's mostly the digital agencies that are pushing the boundaries and trying the new stuff. So I learn as I go, but you've got to convince me to move from the Excel sheet at the moment, or the Google Doc.
Personally, I'm a post-it note person.
Oh!
Everything gets done on post-it note.
Yeah, everyone has got the method. And for example, what about when you manage?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. When you manage various brands, is it quite common that, for example, because you've got the calendar for a week, for example, that it changes something? You know, it's something that you didn't expect. Of course, there is. You can think that it might be happening, but it's like, does it happen often?
Happens all the time.
Okay.
Every day. So what I've learned to do as well is have a spare content tab. So I think you're going to end up posting more and more for them. I mean, if you're billing them by a certain amount or for a certain amount of work or a certain amount of posts, you don't want to keep adding to them all day.
Yeah.
So what you do is you'll swap out. So something new comes in and you say to them, okay, which one do you want me to swap out? I might swap this one out. Yeah, okay. You put it in there. You have a spare tab because next week you've got a load of stuff so it makes your life easier. So don't ever get rid of that stuff. You know, as long as it's evergreen or it's quite timely. But yeah, the bank we do stuff for constantly. You know, can you retweet this? Can you do this? Can you pull that out? Can you write this? Can you do that? Don't like this. And it's just throughout the day. And it is quite frustrating. But you just got to roll with it really.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep everything.
Yeah. So in that case, do you set up the posts to be published on a particular time, or do you prefer to keep an eye and just do it? Okay, let's say it's time to post the next thing.
Depends. Yeah, it depends on the client and how they do things. Really, I very rarely schedule stuff in Hootsuite for a client just because things change so much. And also between whatever, if you're using Hootsuite or Sprout Social or wherever, often they can do some really weird things between, you know, two bits of tech. You know, sometimes Facebook and Hootsuite just don't want to talk to each other. So all sorts of stuff, and you can't do polls obviously on Twitter.
Or make cut the audience and who sees the polls and so.
Yes, they do all sorts of strange things. So I mean, if I've got the luxury to do so, I'll post natively.
Yeah.
Really, and I always get someone else to come and read it through for me just to make sure, because I've been staring at it for hours. But yeah, I'm still kind of I mean, I think if it's evergreen kind of marketing stuff. So let's say on my Twitter, because I'm way behind usually on that, is that I'll put in Hootsuite every couple of weeks, slightly different worded things saying go and look at this blog, go and look at that blog, and you can run that because that's not a problem. But I'd say everything else has to be pretty timely.
There was Forster Comms that it said after the Trump election, like scheduled tweets are standing out like a sore thumb today.
Yeah,
that is like,
yeah,
hell yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because if it's relevant to you, you know, you should always plan 2 bits of content for depending on what the outcome is. But you know,
and you're ready.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, actually, something I was going to say as well is about watching out for national disasters and all that kind of thing. Because there's been some shocking stuff in the past, especially in the US. I mean, there's a famous one, and I can't remember what the company was called, but we wouldn't know of it wasn't well known, but he was an advisor or something, and he put up this tweet that said our prices are falling faster than the World Trade Center. Now, really, who thought that was a good idea? You know, you just got to be so careful with these things. So if there's something national-wise happening, have a quick look at what you scheduled and pull it if you have to.
It can even be innocuous, like for marathons, like obviously the bombing that happened at the Boston Marathon, which in my previous role was always my argument for never scheduling for even around the London Marathon, because even that seems very low risk actually. You know, good luck to the runners, but obviously if something happens to a participant or something happens on the day, that's not great. So it was always kind of like getting the content, but like you say, posting it.
And someone will always use it against you later.
Yeah, people
so
love to pitch.
Some people are just like sitting and scrolling and checking out these things, all these typos, and you know, it's like missing something. So they just waiting for
they
you.
just want to point it out, especially the bigger the brand or the more, sometimes the most unpopular the brand.
Exactly.
They want to pick it up, but also, you know, in marathons you get people who actually die on marathon, don't you, as well? So
so I think that's the thing when you're. I was always thinking like that, but maybe it was kind of having those discussions with other teams to kind of say that I don't want to think about this, but we do have to consider the risks even in a.
Did you find sometimes I used to joke with clients that I'm the voice of doom that arrives. Because I'll come in and they'll start to frown more and more as the meeting goes on, and you just say, look, it's my job to think of the worst things that can happen. Make sure you're prepared, and then everything hopefully will be really nice. Yeah.
Like you're saying, it's so crucial, the risk mitigation.
I mean, so many of these companies where something will hit during a weekend and you've got no one available, there's no one in the PR available, and next thing you know, with all the Nestle stuff and all these kind of things, they've got no one on hand to sort stuff out when it's out of hours. And you just think, really? I think they learned their lesson actually, but.
And a tweet can escalate in an hour, can't it?
Absolutely.
Easily a whole person's reputation can.
Well, it's like the misinformation that's come up, isn't it? Facebook trying to tackle that. You know, the fake stuff, the fake news, because you can get the story can be completely moved off, and everybody starts retweeting it. It's not true. So
it's clickbait. So.
Well, yes, you could be right, but no, thank you. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.